Chapter 49, in which Mayor Donovan faces another misfortune. It is a beautiful brisk night on the 19th of July, just 10 days before the celebration. The bright marquee lights of the Gigagan Theater sparkle overhead as Mayor Donovan and his wife went to the front entrance. Nora in a deep red, low-cut evening gown that covered her noticeable paunch. The mayor dressed in his formal black evening tailcoat. Seeing her husband far too upset, this drove her to do something drastic. She insisted if he should go spend the night in the streets together, just the two of them. The mayor only hesitated before he decided to accept her offer, though it did little to make him unable to see or hear the Cat Queen. The mayor and his wife arrive at Box 4, in which they've booked for the latest production of Puss in Boots. The seating of the box had been arranged with care, both of them facing the stage. Lying back in his seat, his eyes wandered slowly round the ornate auditorium. It was impossible to tell how much he was taking in of the scene. A little below them, an orchestra tuned up. In the stalls, elegant, well-dressed people chattered like birds, flirted, laughed. Mayor Donovan was relieved that the Cat Queen's voice seemed improbable to be heard. As he sat silent, he turned to see his wife offering a pair of opera glasses. He, watching her closely, accepted the gift. When the lights dimmed, Mayor Donovan gave a sharp intake of breath. Then he felt silent again, and carefully lifted the opera glasses to his eyes. After that, he was still. When the overture had finished, brilliant light inundated the stage for the first scene. A lakeside setting, with Puss in Boots standing by the water, giving his master instructions. The scene proceeded at a quick pace. The young master pretending to drown. The king's carriage came by. The young master was rescued, and passed himself off as the Marquis of Carabas. The princess fell in love with the Marquis at first sight, and Puss brought the curtain down by inviting the entire assembled company to dine at his master's castle. Then came the sound of applause as the act finished. Mayor Donovan lowered the opera glasses. "Why, that Puss in Boots is terribly clever," his wife said to him. "Remind me of that cat parade down on Main Street. I was wondering if that's the same Puss in Boots people saw there. Sadly, I never saw it myself, Fritz, regarding the baby." For the next act, the plot was held up by a group of clowns who put on a slapstick display, knocking each other flat with hefty blows and kicking each other around the stage. The audience howled with laughter, especially the mayor and his wife. However, his enjoyment was short-lived when he saw that a large policeman had joined the clowns, who had all immediately turned their ferocity on him. The more they attacked him, the more Mayor Donovan became more subdued. When his helmet was knocked off, he had quietly laid down the opera glasses, as though he did not wish to see too much, which concerned his wife. "Oh, Fritz, they're not really hurting each other," she said quietly. "They're only pretending to make us laugh." The act on the stage reminded too much of his brutal beating with Satoru Takahata on the day of the bicentennial, as well as the one incident when he's madly scarred by the Cat Queen. Her words were true for him. She was everywhere. The comedy was followed by a ballet sequence, which seemed to have little to do with the story, but filled the stage with pretty girls moving gracefully. It is where Mayor Donovan watched entranced, and when the curtain descended, he continued to sit in a happy dream. The audience below passed before his eyes like a huge tapestry. The private box was on the lowest tier just above the stalls, and from where he stood, Mayor Donovan could see individuals clearly. One in particular caught his eye from the opera glasses. She was a young woman with blonde hair and blue eyes, slender and good-looking, wearing black clothes. He felt the weakness in his legs, and felt sick with fear. What if the woman was actually Miss Lenoir among the audience? What if she noticed him, watching her from his private box? The pantomime resumed. Puss went to dine with the ogre who owned a nearby castle, tricked the ogre into turning himself into a mouse, and promptly seized him in his mouth. When he spat him out, the ogre had changed into a frail old man, and the stage set has been transformed into a dungeon. The old man was safely incarcerated in the dungeon, and the way was clear for Puss to declare his master owner of the castle, and for the young master to marry the beautiful princess. Puss came down to the footlights to address the audience directly. Puss in Boots bowed elegantly and spoke with a flourish. "Now at last has come the joyous day, for clever Puss was all allowed to have his way. And if I've had my way with you, then from your hands I claim my due." The audience responded, and the air was loud with applause. The cast congregated to take their bows. There was curtsying and smiling, and the gaily ovations to the actresses who put up a good show of being surprised. Then, just as the audience was beginning to die down, Mayor Donovan stared at the blonde-haired woman through the opera glasses. He now notices that she has turned expectantly to face him in box 4, and then she smiled. With his heart seized up, he dropped the opera glasses and turned away, bolting out of the box and out of the theater. It didn't take long for his wife to follow him. It was at the facade of the Gigagon, is where Mayor Donovan heard the voice of the Cat Queen inside his head. "Oh, darling. Tonight I was hoping you and your wife would enjoy the show together. Too bad you had to run off just before the encore, didn't you?" "I beg you, leave me alone," he said. "I can't live like this anymore. It needs to stop." Then there was a long, deafening hiss that rang out into his ears. He screamed in pain as he covered them before dropping to his knees. "Stop!" he shouted. "Please stop!" "I don't think you're in any position to tell me what to do, especially to a queen," she snarled. "You've already ruined my life," he begged, sobbing. "Please, no more. I'm trying so hard to make the ceremony perfect for Kitty." "Perfection doesn't matter to me or the Princess Kitty, doesn't it?" she said. "There's only 10 more days left before the ceremony. Plenty of time for me to spend it with you. Not your council, not the Princess Kitty, not the Pratchett's, not anyone." "Just you." "Because I didn't listen the first time?" he demanded. "How long before you think I truly learned my lesson?" "Oh, we'll see if you truly do, won't we, darling?" she cooed. "Now about your wife. I once heard that she's pregnant." His eyes widened at how harshly and coldly she said it. It felt like a knife stabbed him in the heart. It didn't take long for him to realize. "No," he pleaded. "You can't do this. Leave my wife out of it. Torment me whatever you want. Just leave her alone." "Oh, I really hate to see something terrible happen to both her and the baby," she said. He quickly jolted up to his feet and shouted, "No! I won't let you do this! I won't let you kill her!" Then he could feel something grabbed his shoulder. He immediately freaked and turned around, only to see his concerned wife. "Fritz!" Nora cried. "Who are you talking to out there?" "Just try me, darling," the Cat Queen whispers into his ear. Out of breath, he said, stammering his words, "Nothing, Nora. It's nothing." "What's gotten into you?" Nora demanded. "Whatever happened to the man I've married?" But he didn't answer. Instead, he told her, "I want you to get home and pack your things. You need to get out of here." "What?" she asked. Where do you want me to go? Anywhere. I can't. Not until you tell me what's going on. She even noticed that he's sweating underneath his tailcoat. I want to know. Nora, please, he said. I wish I could. But I'm scared. Look, it's only for 10 days. And on the day of the ceremony, you can come back to me so we can celebrate it together. Fritz, you're not like yourself, and that's what worries me. Even after I planned a night for the both of us, she said. If there's something wrong, then I would like to help. It'll be the least I can do, instead of worrying about our child. Nora, you try to help me, then she'll come after both you and the child you carry, he blurted. I've seen her. She'll do anything to make life hard for me or anyone else. She had all the time she needs until I welcome the girl to my city. Then who, Fritz? She said. Who do you think is going to come after me if I try to help you? Nora, he said. Do you remember the night at the restaurant when I tell you about Miss Lenoir? Miss Lenoir? She asked. What about her? She isn't what she seemed, Nora, he said. Oh, do tell, darling. The Cat Queen whispers into his ear. He told his wife she was a monster. She's actually the Cat Queen. She's the cause for my torment, just because I didn't welcome the girl before the bicentennial. That's more than just a disaster on the 9th of June. That's the prologue. For your own life, you must believe me, Nora. Nora looked down sadly and sighed. Oh, Fritz, why should I? I can tell that she's like the rest of humanity already. The Cat Queen whispers into his ear. You have to, he said. This nightmare will end the instant I have welcomed Princess Kitty to Kadono. I wouldn't want you to be a part of it. Not even the child. Fritz, just stop, Nora said. I think I've now realized why you're acting like this. It's because of this accident with the dirigible. I really understand that you were affected by this. Even bound to never forget for the rest of your life. But even as a husband, you're no different from the rest who are affected. Especially me. You're not listening. Fritz, this entire Cat Queen thing is just ridiculous. And I wouldn't just go away and leave you to hurt yourself, or maybe others. There is no such thing as a Cat Queen, Fritz. She's not real. She's real like Kitty, Nora, he snapped. Don't you dare say that! Those who don't believe get what they deserve. As if a switch is being flipped, Nora's kind demeanor is gone. Just stop, she said. If you want to let this accident to continue to ruin your life, instead of moving on, I tried to help. If you want me to go, I'll go. But when I come back, don't expect me to do you a favor in return, because you will not get it. You just got to help yourself. Now, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going back home to pack a few things, then I'm gone, just like you wanted. Not real, am I? The Cat Queen whispers into his ear. Consider it a death sentence, then. Worried, as he saw Nora turning away towards a crosswalk, not far from the theater, he calls out, Nora! Wait! She shouted back, frustrated. I'll see you in 10 days! The Cat Queen whispers into his ear. As soon as Nora takes a blind step off the curb, and halfway to the crosswalk, he spots a green and beige bus speeding towards her. At that moment, without any conscious reasoning process, everything came together in his mind, and the mayor shouted to his wife, Hey! Hey! But before she could turn to face him, she spotted the bus mere inches away towards her. She has no time to get away or scream, as the front plows directly right into her, knocking her to the ground. She died long before her body was crushed underneath it, as it skid to a stop. Mayor Donovan screamed in wretched terror and immediately ran towards the accident, just as the bus driver, a gaunt old man, got out. He orders his passengers to remain in their seats. When he spotted the dead Nora underneath the bus, he balls his hands to his mouth in undeniable fear, and he screamed over and over, "Oh my God! What have I done? What have I done?" Unbeknownst to him, his bus had actually took 2 lives. The mayor's wife and the child inside her, who will never be born. Mayor Donovan rushed to where the driver was looking. The sight of his wife, body all bloodied and mangled, underneath the chassis, clearly sends him over the edge. "And to think that she said, 'I'm not real,'" the Cat Queen whispers into his ear. He covered his ears, hoping to never hear that voice anymore. More and more people arrive at the scene around him. Some ran to call the paramedics and the police that there has been a fatal accident. Among the aghast crowd, with an expression dissonant from the rest, was Charlotte Lenoir. She was looking down bitterly upon Mayor Donovan on his knees, with his head in his hands. Smiling triumphantly, she said to him, audible enough to hear from behind, "I do hope you enjoy the encore I've mentioned. Your wife died because she got in the way. Now you know what happens to those that stand in the way between you and I. Don't you?" As soon as he hears Miss Lenoir hiss from behind, Mayor Donovan throws his head back and lets out a loud scream of anguish. Around him, everyone is struck by how much pain is present in it. Even though the police arrive and question the baffled driver, with the paramedics swarming the scene, Mayor Donovan would continue to scream and scream and scream. Unbeknownst to the people in the scene of the accident, from the rooftops of Codono stood Princess Kitty, her face showing regret as she heard the anguished scream coming from the mayor of the city. "In case you're wondering, Kitty, he's not screaming for the Queen," Ryotov said as he approached. "He's only screaming for you, expecting you to help him, but you won't, and we won't let you. She isn't done with him, and I don't think she ever will be, after what he did to you." She whirled to face him.
"I will not just stand by and do nothing to help, seeing him suffer like this,"
she said. "You will abide by that proverb like the rest of us," he said. "You only have 10 more days until you're welcomed for good."
10 more days for the Queen to continue torturing him mercilessly,"
she said grimly. "He will live long to welcome you, because only he can, and no one else. Until that day, you will consider him a prisoner, and his house a prison, where he can live all alone with no one to come visit him. If anyone does, it is the Queen who shall be waiting there." He makes a gesture with his index finger, pointing to the back of his neck to demonstrate. She gulped.
"I never knew how far I've been gone since I brought you all here into existence,"
she said. "It must be fate. A fate which will seal all of Codono forever. We only have the proverb to strengthen it." With the entire city wrapped around her finger, then who's to stop it? Only she knows the answer, doesn't she? Should you tell her?
"What's all this really about?"
she demanded. He only smiled at her. "Why don't you tell me? It is your story after all. Your destiny. He turned and left her alone on the top. Looking down, the city buses moved, so the paramedics can bring Nora's body into the wagon and be transported to the coroner's office. Finally, she can feel sick just by looking down at the crowd bitterly. She had already remembered the proverb and what it meant.
Those who don't believe,
she said to herself, before she takes a leap off the roof, away from the scene of the accident. It was at the refurbished fairground on the 22nd, is where preparations were at an intolerable mania. What's more, Mayor Donovan's close friend, Councilman Seitz, is left in charge after Mayor Donovan is under house arrest by order of the Cat Queen. Nobody is allowed to see him or go near 635 Mulberry Street. Those who dare only conjure up her wrath. At the fairground, the Ferris wheel and the racetrack, as well as the games, were disassembled and shipped into storage weeks ago. Now the platform is being freshly whitewashed and a long banner unveiled, stating that the 29th will be the first appreciation day for Princess Kitty. But the lack of seeing Mayor Donovan out in the fairground seemed unnerving for Councilman Seitz. "Unbelievable, isn't it?" he said to Councilman Oaks. "Whoever thought we'd see the day when our mayor since 31 suddenly became a prisoner in his own house, especially after his wife was killed. What's worse, she was pregnant with his child. Makes you feel a whole lot sorry for the poor man," Councilman Oaks said. "Well, he only has one more week left. Then he can finally have his life back. He'll finally be free from this cat creature forever." That's when Councilman Takahata approached him. "Oh, I hope I didn't hear that coming from you, Mr. Seitz." "Mr. Takahata, please," Councilman Seitz said. "We're not discussing this with you, so you need to leave us be. You already got your job back a month ago, so you're one of us again." "For how long?" Councilman Takahata said. "Life isn't feeling the same since then." "Mr. Takahata, when do you think this cat creature will stop?" Councilman Oaks demanded. "Don't you even care that he suffered enough? He already lost his wife, who was pregnant. Do you really expect her to let the spitting image of Donovan be born in such a world?" Councilman Takahata said bitterly. "I know what will happen to the baby in the years ahead, and so does Shineko, the Cat Queen. First came the child, then comes responsibility, then comes the act of throwing away his toys and fun forever. Another grown-up who doesn't believe anymore. She won't let it happen. Well, I too am glad his wife died, so the child would never be born." "Mr. Takahata!" Councilman Seitz snapped. "How could you say—" Suddenly, Councilman Takahata slugs him mightily. Councilman Seitz falls to the ground, leaving Councilman Oaks frozen in shock. "Please, Mr. Takahata," he pleaded, grabbing Councilman Takahata by the shoulder. "Don't hurt him. All we want is for everything to go back to normal." Councilman Takahata suddenly turned and grabbed Councilman Oaks' hand before twisting it. Councilman Oaks screamed and jerked his hand away from Councilman Takahata's grip and rubbed his hand. Councilman Takahata hoisted Councilman Seitz by his hair, causing him to scream in pain. When Councilman Takahata notices that some of the workers stop and stare at him, he shouted, "Get back to work!" As soon as the workmen turned away, Councilman Takahata said bitterly to Councilman Seitz, as he pulled the blonde hair tighter, "You listen good. You don't have the power to see the future. Shineko does. Just because I'm no longer under her control like some kind of puppet doesn't mean I'll no longer be loyal to her. I know the consequences if I'm not loyal to begin with, for I've understood too much that she's a Bakineko and not just any ordinary cat you find somewhere in the streets." "So you're letting her torture him? Letting her do what she wants with him, even killing his wife?" Councilman Seitz said. Then the blonde hair was pulled tighter. "Shineko seldom kills without sympathy, Mr. Seitz. She did not kill Nora. Shineko has her killed by the unknown, which follows its proverb. I can't believe you would let her do this to Donovan, Councilman Sight said, swallowing in her throat that suddenly dry. Not just me or the yokai, Mr. Sights, Councilman Takahata whispered. Princess Kitty, for she is the one. She caused all of this. The moment she is welcomed, she has fulfilled her destiny. So, it will be nice if you watch what you're going to say. Unless you want to end up like Donovan. Don't forget, she's everywhere. Then he lets go of the blonde hair before storming off. Councilman Sights turned to face Councilman Oaks, who was looking up at the banner. I'm telling you, Charles, Councilman Oaks said, this'll all be worth it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Perfection doesn't matter to a creature like Princess Kitty. Sighing, Councilman Sights turned to see Mr. Rochelle and Mr. Milliken, carrying a tall pink and silver throne by both ends. I was wondering if we should help you, Mr. Rochelle said. This throne was in the old prop storage from our 1926 production of Cinderella. You mean there isn't enough time to order a proper throne? Councilman Sights asked. It's either this or an ordinary chair, Mr. Milliken said. And it's pink, too. Yes, that will do fine, Councilman Sights said. Thanks, Mr. Rochelle smiled, as he and Mr. Milliken carried the throne towards the top of the platform and placed it in the middle. Councilman Sights followed them. Well, what do you think? Mr. Rochelle said, urging Councilman Sights to have a seat. Councilman Sights did so, and stared forward towards the fairground. She'll love it, he said. She'll see the citizens from here, as they adore her. He rose from the throne and shook both of their hands. Thanks so much. I appreciate the effort. Quite so, Mr. Rochelle said. Look, I hear about what happened to the mayor. I'm so sorry about his wife's death in a bus accident. Yes, Mr. Milliken said. We were hoping if we should help him out in his time of grief. No, Councilman Sight said, remembering Councilman Takahata's warning while watching what he said. You two will do nothing, nor go near his house, unless you have a death wish to do so. Both the theater managers felt the words strike portentously at them. As they left, Councilman Sights turned and looked at the banner and the throne underneath, saying to himself, just one more week, then this madness will all be over.